the success rates of small businesses. Now, I already said that kind of like we wouldn't be technically considered a small business, right? Chamber of Commerce, the chamberofcommerce.org website. I'm going to read some stuff from here. All right, so they technically classify, they say, according to the U.S. Small Business Administration definition of a small business, small businesses are defined by firm revenue, which ranges from $1 million to over $40 million. Additionally, it is determined by the number of employees, ranging from 100 to over 500 employees. So, for example, a roofing contractor earning an annual revenue of $16.5 million or less is considered a small business. All right, so that's just their technical definition. But here's what I want to go over, though, that's important, and that is the survival rate of small businesses. So if this is what they consider a small business or consider a small business, for us who are self-employed running these small businesses of reselling, I mean, it might be a little more amplified, okay? But look at this. We're going through 5 years, okay, of being in business. So in year one, the survival rate for a business in operation in year one is 21.9%, which isn't bad, That's really good. So you got a really good chance of surviving through your first year of business, okay? But now by year two, that goes up to 31.8%. All right, so now you went from 21 to 31. So your chances in year two increase by 10% that you're going to fail. All right. Now by year three, they got it at 60.3% chance that your business is going to fail by year three. That's very telling. It's saying something. And of course, there's a lot of factors that go into why a small business might not make it past the third year. I mean, I got my thoughts on some of that anyway, but just think of that. You shoot up from year one, you go from 20% all the way up to over 50% by year three. At year four, that kind of goes down. If you can make it past that year three hump, that kind of goes down a little bit to 45.7%. And then year five, all the way on, that kind of, starts to change. But if you just want to go to that first 5 years, you pretty much got a 50% chance of failing in the first 5 years of being in business. And so for us, you need to consider that. And so this is why you need to be planning out. You need to have a 5-year projection of what you're going to do. And here's one of the reasons that I think that most businesses fail, right? Within those first 5 years. And I think it's poor planning. Poor planning. People they underestimate the revenue that they might do. They underestimate their expenses. They underestimate what it takes, even sweat equity wise. Some people lazy, they get into it and they realize, hey, they don't want to do the work. They underestimate how much discipline it takes, how much self-discipline and self-motivation. I think those are two of the main factors that influence people not making it past that first 5 years, man. Self-discipline, self-motivation. I think those are big. Because if you can't motivate yourself and discipline yourself, especially in the hard times, you ain't gonna make it. And just being creative, having a plan, having a schedule, because you're going to, in those 5 years, encounter some difficulties. You're going to encounter some problems. There's going to be things that you have to change. Inflexibility. A lot of people just ain't willing to change. Continuing education. There's a lot of professions where you have to have continuing education year by year. You got to redo certifications and things like that. Every year you got to recertify and take tests and things like that. And it's for a reason, right? You have to be up to date with what is going on. It's no different in reselling. You have to have continuing education. You got to be up to date with what is going on. You got to know what's going on. You got to be ready to pivot at a moment's notice. And that's just the start. That's just the beginning. And so reselling wise, if you're not like for me, I've been doing makeup and cosmetics and health and beauty, right? It's been profitable. I haven't had a down year. It's a grind by myself. And so I'm trying to, what I've been trying to do before I hire somebody is that I've been trying to make sure that I got all my processes down and, you know, the main kinks worked out. I don't want to bring somebody into chaos and then end up causing myself more chaos, right? But eventually I'm gonna have to do it. But also at the same time, there's obstacles. Let's put it that way. Number one, you do have to do volume with a lot of this stuff, right? But number two is, you know, mixing in some higher dollar items. But then number three for me is I have to also be willing to look at other ways that I source and other categories and other things. And so for instance, while I've been doing really well with it, especially on Walmart, I'm also looking at now branching out into other departments. You know, maybe we're going into summertime. We're already in spring. We're going into summertime. So things like home and gardening are going to be popular, right? And so I have to be willing to, I can't just be like, yeah, okay, well, this is what was working. Yeah, you want to stick with what worked, but businesses that succeed, that make it past that 3, 4, 5 year mark, they're businesses that are always thinking forward. I remember watching a documentary on like Exxon and all of them. It wasn't putting them in a good light. It was talking more about how they kind of like lied about, you know, some of the stuff going on and this and that. I don't want to really get into that, but the one thing that I remember thinking is like how way back in the early 90s and stuff, they had already known about some of the climate issues, and they had already been doing research and putting money into research in different areas. And it's like they was like 20, 30 years ahead already, where they should be drilling, what they can do here, how the business might change there. And on a much smaller scale, of course, that is how you need to be looking at your business. You have to be thinking 5, 10, 15 years ahead if you plan on doing this that long. If not, then fine. But if this is your business, then you need to be thinking on how you're going to survive. What if there's a recession? What if the item you're selling automatically tanks, and because of the price tankers, the people that don't know what they're doing? What if that tanks? How are you going to hedge against these threats? I guarantee you, most resellers that claim to be full-time resellers have not done a SWOT analysis on their business, have not done projections for their business, and don't have a 3, 4, 5 year plan for their business. They're just doing it. And those are going to be the ones that, if they continue with that behavior, then those are probably going to be the ones that fall victim to those statistics right there. And I don't want to be that person. And so the success rate, the odds is against you. The longer you in business, the odds is against you. And how you going to beat the odds? That's the question. How you going to beat the odds? You know, the way you're going to beat the odds is always, you got to do more than the next man. It ain't just about working harder. It's more about working smarter, right? Being the one that has projections, being the one that has a plan, being the one that's always learning, constantly networking, communicating with people, looking at the state of affairs when it comes to the world. And I remember somebody was saying something on their video, people was making comments, I think this was on Arena Vision's channel. They was commenting on how he's getting kind of political in his videos. And he kind of made the point basically that, you know, how can I not be when these things that are going on in our world that's affecting our business, they're political. And he had a point, right? It's like, if these decisions that are being made has an effect on our economy and on things and on commerce, if these political decisions have an effect on that, then in a sense, yes, this is political. This is political. That don't mean I have to become involved in politics, but I do got to understand what's going on in politics, because those politics have a direct effect or indirect effect on my business. And so my decisions that the decisions I made about how I'm going to proceed right now, I might have to change that up a little bit, depending on what policies are in effect or what's going on. I need to be aware of that. And I might have to change up what I'm doing. And so, that's just kind of that's how I feel like all of that is kind of tied in, even going back to people tanking prices and, just running artificial sales because they're trying to get business, all the way up to the future of reselling and all that, and the success rate, basically the lifespan of your business. If you want your business lifespan to outlive the stats, then you're going to have to operate outside of the stats. You're going to have to operate outside of the things that, fall within the spectrum of those stats. That most people, the majority of people, they're operating inside of the aspect of things that fall in those stats. Here's some of the reasons why business failed within this amount of time frame. Well, then you got to ask yourself, well, if they're failing within that time frame, what can I do to not fit that description, right?